Everybody loves dads, stories, and the Marine Corps. What could be better than Marine Corps dads who tell stories? Here's another story with veteran storyteller John Sugar Jr., a Marine Corps dad.
Tonight, we're going to tell the story of the shark that got water up his nose. Once upon a time, there was a shark, and his name was Biff. Biff the shark. And Biff the shark would swim the seven seas, and he would do his theme music. Dun 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 dun. He would see a fish. Dun 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 dun. And he'd come up on the fish. Dun 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 dun. And he would open his mouth wide to eat the fish, and the fish would turn around and go, ah! And Biff the shark would, ah, 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 because the water would always go up Biff's nose. Every time he opened his mouth to eat a fish, right to the brain, seawater. And he was like, which is really weird to see when you see a shark with a whole bunch of teeth going, ugh. And all the fish would make fun of Biff. There you go, Biff is coming. Dun 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 dun. Because every single time he'd try to eat a fish, seawater straight to the brain. Because he couldn't keep it out of his nose. And he was like, ah! And so Biff was always so hungry. And he would randomly try to bite. And so much seawater went up his nose. Every single time. And Biff would have headaches, man. Have you ever had seawater in your head? Headaches. He'd be like, ugh, I can't. I need a mint. I need to just go lay down. And Biff was so unhappy because he couldn't eat any fish. And so Biff was reduced to eating kelp.
What's kelp?
It's like a big seaweed. And he had to go and bite the kelp. And he hated kelp. Hated it. Kale of the sea. Hated kelp. Until one day, he was talking to his mom. And Biff's mom loved Biff. And Biff's mom said, well, why don't you just cover your nose? He was like, huh? And she said, I see human swimmers, and they do this. And they pinch their noses shut so they don't get water up their nose when they're swimming. Have you tried that? And he was like, whoa. So he got a long piece of kelp. And he wrapped it around his nose. And it felt a little weird. And he kind of squished his face out. And it looked like he had a real nose. On the front of his face. And so he went after a fish. And this is a fish that laughed at him a lot. So he came up on him. And the fish was like, really? Really, Biff? This is what we're reduced to? And the shark went... And he opened his mouth, and the fish just stood there watching the whole time. And Biff went... And that fish disappeared. You know, the fish were like, whoa, Biff got one. And Biff said... And he went after all the other fish. The fish were like, no! And the fish were all fat and slow because they were used to the shark not being able to get him. But this time, the seawater didn't hit Biff in the brain. And he went after the fish. And he ate the fish like sharks are supposed to. And he was a happy shark ever after. The fish, not so much, but the shark, yes. The end.
Daddy?
What?
Remember?
That was another story with John Sugar Jr., a Marine Corps dad. Check the show notes for links to his Patreon and website at creativegrumbles.com.